the longer form answer to this, it's opening me up to listening to music that I never gave a chance to before. Well, I want to save enough time for us to talk a little bit about vinyl record collecting.
Brian, we've got to talk to you. What is this fascination with Lawrence Welk? Is this like your second album now that I saw the other day? Your second? Is this something from your childhood? Did your grandparents watch Lawrence Welk show or?
Well, my grandpa loved Lawrence Welk.
Mine was my grandma. She loved Lawrence Welk, and my grandfather was a hee-haw man. So
Sure.
we had the best of both worlds.
This is a great segue into vinyl talk that we're going to have. I posted a few days ago. This was on a trip out to Pennsylvania.
I saw that. Yeah.
We went to Penn State. My oldest, a cadet up at West Point, and he plays on their club hockey team. And so West Point was playing Penn State at the time. Whenever we go somewhere nowadays, I always like to try to find out a record store that's there just to kind of see what's in that region, what could be at this particular record store that I can get pretty cheap. One of the records I came across at this record store was a brand new sealed Lawrence Welk show box collector set. 6 albums in it for $3.
Yeah, that was an awesome price.
Am I a Lawrence Welk fan? No. Do I know who he is? Kind of. The Champagne music guy, right? Big band, and I think SNL back in the early 2000s did some skits of Lawrence Welk, and everything's kind of funny. But it was just music that my grandfather kind of grew up with, and even up until when he passed a few years ago, he was always kind of the big band music guy. It wasn't my thing growing up. But I saw this brand new box set, and I was like, for $3, I've got to get this. And
which sounds like it's in great shape, by the way. The album you played on your reel there, I was like, wow, that sounds like it's in great shape. Yeah,
it sounds fantastic. And so here's the thing, and I'm curious about what your thoughts are with the whole collecting of vinyl and how you look at records and everything. My thing is, I got into music mid-'80s. I never got into vinyl back then. My mom had some. We had some around the house, but when I started buying my own music, it started with cassette tapes and then CDs right away. And I thought records were a thing of the past, and I didn't think much of it. The last few years, I kind of got sucked into the craze that it's kind of come back around a little bit. And I was like, every time I went to a bookstore or walked by a record store, it was always fun to go in. My thing is, do I need a hobby aside from podcasting or photography that's super expensive? No, I don't need to do this, but there's something about physically holding media like a record, a big 12-inch cardboard sleeve, the smell of it, the feel of it, the touch of it. Yep. There's just something about it. And getting into it, I was like, go ahead.
Do you read the liner notes and all that?
I will sit down and kind of as it's playing, because you have to listen to the whole thing. It's not like you're skipping through or you're making a playlist or something. You sit down as the artist wants you to listen to that album. So I'll sit down when nobody's in the house, the lights are off, I'm enjoying a nice little drink, and I have a little bit of a light to where I can kind of look through the liners and just kind of see everything. But my thing with getting into the record collecting is I didn't want to necessarily replicate what my CD collection looks like down in my basement that is now all in a plastic tub. I probably have 1,000 CDs that are in there.
Kind of the same, still have them, yep.
And I would say probably a good... conservatively speaking, 50% of those CDs are from bands that I'm like, when I grew up, I was like, ugh. I look back now, I'm like, well, that was one hit wonder. But I have my own musical tastes. But I was like, I'm not gonna spend money on the vinyl of certain artists or bands that I once got. I want to make this a concerted effort into discovering new music that I never really got into. So it's very much it's a thought process of going in. I want to discover music that will open me up to a few new things. My ultimate favorite artists or bands, then I will look to get the vinyl for. So that's my strategy on this. So the Lawrence Welk that you brought up, and a friend of mine, Amanda, she asked the same thing that you did. which is why this is a great topic for us to start on. Because when I posted that thing on Instagram of Lawrence Welk and playing the first song, but do you like it? And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, short answer is yes or no. But the longer form answer to this is it's opening me up to listening to music that I'm not necessarily, I never gave a chance to before. And again, this was something that my grandfather really liked. So I think that's a cool connection there. And I'm like, okay, well, let's see what he was kind of into. So putting the record down and listening to it as it was spinning around, I liked it. I enjoyed it. Is it something that I'm like, God damn, I want to listen to this again tonight when I'm doing work in the yard or fixing the car or something? Probably not. But for a night to where maybe
not like Taylor Swift or anything like that. Yeah.
Well, but the Taylor Swift is on the same lines, and I'm going to get into that. But so the Lawrence Welk thing is something that I'm like, maybe if the wife and I are cooking dinner, we're having a date night, got some wine going, that would be one of the perfect albums to put on. Or you're playing cards with another couple or something. That's the Lawrence Welk album and why I ended up getting it. Taylor Swift is the same thing, and I know I don't know if I'm getting some side eye from you on that. I wasn't initially into Taylor Swift, not my thing, not my generational type thing. I acknowledge she had some pop hits, some songs that they're catchy. I like them, but I never had anything like anti-Taylor. So
until now, where she's dating Travis Kelce and she's kind of gone from your chances now. But
so my thing with Taylor Swift was the last few years, one of my friends is a huge Swiftie, the big Taylor Swift fans. They're called Swifties. And I interviewed her on the podcast and just talking to her and the whole phenomenon. Whether you like her or not, Taylor Swift is a mega phenomenon. And I'm like, this is interesting. The stories behind everything that she has going on and the re-recording of her albums, which I think is totally boss. I was like, this is interesting. So at the time, that was when her album Midnights was coming out. Again, not a very casual fan. And then here I am after that podcast I did. I went out and bought 4 copies of the 4 alternative albums just to make a stupid clock, which I have no business doing.